Hello, YouTubers, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you for taking the time to be with me for a few moments out of your life. Time is the most valuable commodity and the only irreplaceable commodity you'll ever have. Once you spend it, it is forever gone. I'm working on two different sermonettes. One I've already started. I've got 3 or 4 already out there right here on YouTube on this channel. And it's about reprogramming the mind for success. Mentalism. And you were born to succeed. That's the one that I've already started. And I hope you get something out of it. I'm not even halfway through that program that I'm sharing with you. So please subscribe and continue to watch those. This one is going to run simultaneously, so I'm going to try to be doing two sermonettes a week. One on the reprogramming the mind for success, and this one on the naked truth. And this one is based on this little legend. It's a 19th century legend about the truth and the lie meeting one day. And the lie says to the truth, "It's a marvelous day today." The truth looks up in the sky and sighs. For the truth sees that the day is indeed really beautiful. They spend a lot of time together, ultimately arriving beside a well. The lie tells the truth, "The water's very nice. Let's take a bath together." The truth, once again suspicious, tests the water, discovers that indeed it is very nice. They undress and start bathing. Suddenly the lie comes out of the water, puts on the clothes of the truth, and runs away. The furious truth comes out of the well and runs around everywhere to find the lie and to get her clothes back. The world, seeing the truth naked, turns their gaze away with contempt and rage. The poor truth returns to the well and disappears forever, hiding therein its shame. Since then, the lie has traveled around the world dressed as the truth. The truth is dressed as the truth, satisfying the needs of society, because the world, in any case, harbors no wish at all to meet the naked truth. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to be introducing you to the naked truth. And no, it's not something you'll want to hear. Throughout history, the lie has been accepted as the truth, and the truth is something we push away. So you may not subscribe to this. You may not like to hear these words. You may excuse the lie as tradition. It's just what we do. There's no harm. But is there or is there not? Does truth matter? Does reality matter? Or is it simply just what pacifies us? Or as Jesus said, tickles our ears, makes us feel good. I'm recording this 2 days before the big holiday in our country, the United States, known as Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is based on the story of the Pilgrims and the Indians and coming together and its family and its love and its food and abundance. And giving thanks for this abundance as if it were attained in an honest, genuine, loving, caring way, as if it were something to really celebrate. But those who are indigenous to this land we call the United States of America have been long misrepresented and pushed out of American history textbooks in favor of glorifying those who now rule this nation and represent the dominant culture. What kind of democracy are we when educational institutions and teachers refuse to mention the fact that 10 to 30 million natives were killed at the hands of European invasion and colonization? What is the point of having a free market of ideas when selective and biased history is being taught to our children? In fact, it's not taught to your children, it was taught to you. You were never taught the truth. Columbus Day. Why on our land, the United States of America, do we celebrate Columbus Day? Forgetting the history of what Columbus actually did, what he actually stood for, he didn't discover anything. There were people here. He never touched the land that we call the United States of America. It is very, very sad. There's no other way to put it, but erasing the memory of an entire race of people through distorted history is a systematic way of deceiving and lying to our children, carrying on the lie that was given to you. Not only are we presented with a biased history, we're also subjected to an ever-growing culture of capitalism in which commercialization of an ambiguous holiday merely pulls us away from facts and meaning. Turkeys are associated with Thanksgiving in the same way that Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny have become synonymous with Christmas and Easter, respectively. Though through the guise of innocence, capitalism is constantly telling us to continue and to consume because consumption equals happiness. Tomorrow is not, the day after Thanksgiving, Friday, is not Black Friday for nothing. Children dress up as pilgrims and natives to reenact a romanticized version of history. They are not only perpetrating stereotypes, but more importantly, they're being embedded with lies. What do they really know about the pilgrims and the natives? Consider a high school history textbook called The American Tradition, which describes the scene quite succulently. An excerpt from which reads, after some exploring, the pilgrims chose the land around Plymouth Harbor for their settlement. Unfortunately, they had arrived in December and were not prepared for the New England winter. However, they were aided by friendly Indians who gave them food and showed them how to grow corn. When warm weather came, the colonists planted, fished, hunted, and prepared themselves for the next winter. After harvesting their first crop, they and their Indian friends celebrated the first Thanksgiving. And let's be perfectly clear. The natives on this land were not Native Americans because there was no America. They were not Indian. They were referred to as Indian because the people who, quote unquote, discovered this preoccupied land thought they had landed in India. This patronizing version of history excludes many embarrassing facts of European history. As stated by one author, many college students are unaware of the horrific plague that devastated and significantly reduced the population of natives after Columbus arrived in this so-called New World. It wasn't a new world. It had been populated forever. Most diseases came from animals that were domesticated by Europeans. Cowpox from cows led to smallpox, which was later spread through gifts of blankets that infected Europeans. by infected, I meant Europeans. Of the 12 high school textbooks that this Professor Lowen studied and analyzed, only 3 offer some explanation that the plague was a factor in European colonization. The 9 remaining textbooks mention almost nothing, and 2 of them omit the subject altogether. He writes, each of the other 7 furnishes only a fragment of a paragraph that does not even make it into the index, let alone into the students' minds. Why is it important to mention this plague? Because it reinforced European ethnocentrism, which hardly produced a friendly relationship between the natives and Europeans. To most of the pilgrims and Europeans, the natives were heathen, savages, treacherous, and even satanic. Upon seeing thousands of dead natives, the governor of Massachusetts Bay Colony, John Winthrop, called the plague miraculous. In 1634, he wrote to a friend in England, it's the governor, Massachusetts Bay Colony, wrote these words upon seeing, keep this in mind, that all the dead bodies of the indigenous natives of this land that we now call the United States of America, he wrote, but for the natives in these parts, God hath so pursued them. God hath so pursued them. As for 300 miles span, the greatest part of them are swept away by the smallpox which still continues among them. So as God had thereby cleared our title to this place, those who remain in these parts being in all not 50, have put themselves under our protect, subjected the few that were left. This is our government officials in this nation we call the United States of America. Miraculous that all these natives, these indigenous savages, were put to death by none other than God. A God the Indian, the Native American, the indigenous had never heard of. That so-called Christian God. Yes. The ugly truth is that many pilgrims were thankful and grateful that the native population was decreasing. Even worse was the Packwood Massacre of 1637, which started after the colonists found a murdered white man. Captain John Mason and his colonist army surrounded a fortified Pequot village and reportedly shouted, "We must burn them." Such a dreadful terror, let the Almighty fall upon their spirits that they would flee from us and run into the very flames. Thus did the Lord judge the heathen, filling the place with dead bodies. The surviving Pequot were hunted and slain. The governor of Plymouth, William Bradford, further celebrates is not so far off. He wrote, those that escaped the fire were slain with a sword, some hewed to pieces, others run through with their rapiers, so that they were quickly dispatched and very few escaped. It was conceived they thus destroyed about 400 at the same time. It was a fearful sight to see them thus frying in the fire. Horrible was the stink and scent thereof, but the victory seemed a sweet sacrifice, and they gave the prayers thereof to God, who had wrought so wonderfully for them. Can I get an amen? Are you thinking about that as you gather and you act thankful for this abundance you've got? As these indigenous people have been pushed to the little plots of land around the country, as we've commercialized, democratized, as we like to say, this land, raped it, pillaged it. The day after the massacre, the aforementioned governor of Massachusetts, Bay Colony, declared a day of thanksgiving, thanking God that they had eliminated over 700 men, women, and children. It was signed into law that this day forth, shall be a day of celebration and thanksgiving for subduing the Pequots. Another quote, American high school textbook, The Land of Promise, reads, Squanto had learned their language, the author explained, from English fishermen who ventured into the New England waters each summer. Squanto taught the Pilgrims how to plant corn, squash, and pumpkins. Would the small band of settlers have survived without Squanto's help? We cannot say. But by the fall of 1621, colonists and Indians could sit down to several days of feast and thanksgiving to God, later celebrated as the first Thanksgiving Day. Note that this text states that the first Thanksgiving was in 1621. Indeed, there was a feast on that day, but it was not called a Thanksgiving feast, nor was it repeated until years later after the Pequot Massacre in 1617. 1637. In regards to Squanto, the correct question to ask is, how did Squanto learn English? History textbooks neglected to mention that the Europeans did not perceive Squanto as an equal, but rather as an instrument of their God to help the chosen people. You see how, and it's still that way, we're God's chosen people. That's the way they like to present it. We are better than them. It's been the white skin color until we had the civil rights, and we kind of had to lift up the blacks a little bit, didn't we? It's been this superior race. It's been that way. God's chosen people. It also admitted that as a boy, Squanto was stolen by a British captain in 1605 and taken to England. He worked for a Plymouth merchant who eventually helped him arrange passage back to Massachusetts, but less than a year later, he was seized by a British slave trader. Along with 24 fellow natives, Squanto was sold into slavery in Spain. He would manage to escape slavery, journey back to England, and then talk a ship captain into taking him along on his next trip to Cape Cod in 1619. As Squanto walked back into his home village, he was horrified to find that he was the only surviving member of his village. The rest were either killed in battle or died of illness and disease. Excluding Squanto's enslavement is to paint an incredibly distorted version of history that suggests natives like Squanto learned English for no other reason but to help the colonists. It is to glorify the Europeans and erase the struggles and experiences of the native people. When history is transformed into myths, tales, and bedtime stories, we ignore historical research that enables us to learn valuable and meaningful lessons about our present as well as about our future. As Professor Lowen states further, Thanksgiving is full of embarrassing facts. The Pilgrims did not introduce the Native American to the tradition. Eastern Indians had observed autumnal harvest celebrations for centuries. Our modern celebrations date back only to 1863, not until the 1890s did the Pilgrims get included in the tradition. No one even called them Pilgrims until the 1870s. Does that truth matter? To say that that naked truth does not matter is to say that truth doesn't matter. Truth makes no difference. Lie to us. It feels so good. It pacifies my people. It pacifies who I am because my God blessed me and ours. Interesting how that works, isn't it? Interesting that you would celebrate such an event in our hard history. But this isn't all. This is what you'll be celebrating in 2 days from now, or whenever you're watching this. It could be the day of, could be the day before, or the day after. And this is just one of the things that the lie dressed as truth has presented to you, that you are taught, and that you teach your children as they gather in churches and act out roles as loving, sweet pilgrims and natives getting together in this abundant feast that they've been blessed with. Isn't that so sweet and so awesome? But yet, what do we learn from this? We learn that the naked truth we don't want. The naked truth is not for us because God blessed my people. God gave me this land. Screw all these people that were here before. Clearly they had a false God. Clearly they were savages. We are polished. We are clean. For we are the chosen people. Isn't that a wonderful, arrogant, narcissistic view of the world? But yet, Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, you'll put the blindness of the lies dressed as truth over your eyes. You will veil yourself. You will take this and you will shove it way off, out of your vision, out of your thoughts. And you will bow your heads. You will proclaim how blessed you are. As the natives still live in great squalor on itty-bitty pieces of land. That were taken from them in the most hard fashions. That's the naked truth of Thanksgiving. I've got a lot more coming up. We're going to go through not just holidays such as that. We're going to talk about the Bible and what you believe versus what the Bible says. Interesting topic's going to be coming up next week. When you die, when someone dies, they go to heaven. Do they go straight to heaven? You hear that, don't you? You read it on tombstones, don't you? It's a common thing. They're in heaven, smiling down on us. Right? Yes. No. We're going to talk about that. The naked truth. This series is the naked truth. And no. The last line. Since then, the lie travels around the world dressed as the truth, satisfying the needs of society, because the world, in any case, harbors no wish at all to meet the naked truth. Welcome to the Naked Truth. Thank you for tuning in. Have a good day.